Hello and welcome everyone to my first painting video. In this video I will be going through how I painted my Castellan-Achea Battle-Automata for the Thousand Suns. I just want to start off by saying I don't claim to be a Golden Demon winner or the world's best painter. However, I do feel I might have some tips and tricks that up my sleeve that you might find interesting and you might want to use for yourself. If you like our videos, please like and subscribe to our channel, as you will find there'll be more cool and upcoming things coming for Twisted Dice. So to start off, I have base coated my automata with a Chaos Black, and what I'm going to be using now, I'm going to be using my airbrush. I'm going to be watering down a Citadel White to a milky consistency in the airbrush. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray this over the model, ready for the pre-shading for when I go over the red. For this next stage, I'm going to be using the Vallejo red, and this is going to be my base coat. So this is just going to go straight into the airbrush. I'm not going to water this down, I'm just going to use it straight from the bottle itself. For the next step, I'm going to be going in with Mephiston red. Once again, I'm going to water this down in the airbrush, and I'm going to turn this into a milky consistency. And this is now going to go over the highlighting parts on top of the red that I've just done. For this next step, I'm going to be coming in with scale colour SC38 red, and this is just going to be, once again, just highlighting where I've gone over the Mephiston, just lighten it up a little bit more. For the final stage of the red, I'm going to be going back over with the Vallejo red, and this is just to blend in. I'm just going to walk this down slightly just so I can just blend the reds back in together. For this next step, I'm going to be using a liquid mask to cover over the model, over the parts that I would like to stay red. For the next step after this, I'm going to be base coating all the metal parts with a Vallejo silver. But to stop that from spreading over to the parts that I don't want ruined, I'm just going to pop this on first. The trick I found using this is not to use it straight out the bottle. So for myself, what I tend to use is an old plate, using the cotton bud to spread it over the larger part of the areas. Once it comes to the small areas or the harder parts to get into using a cotton bud, I'll tend to use an old paintbrush. Once the liquid mask is dried, it will look something like this. So you'll see that it comes like a glossy type coat over the model itself. Now they do recommend that you leave this to dry naturally, but myself being impatient, I'll go over with a hairdryer to speed the process up. For the next step, I'm going to be using one of the Vallejo range again, and I'm going to go in with a steel. Once all the paint is dried, It's now the fun part of just peeling off all the mask. Now, the best way I've found starting this off is just use a bit of blue tack, push it in, and you'll start to find it will just peel off. So once you get into the corners, just use a little bit of blue tack again, and that'll pull the mask out of the corners. Once I've removed all the mask off the model, and then followed up by going over a Mechanicus standard grey, and I put this all over as a base coat over the trims of the model. Once the Mechanicus grey had dried around the trims, I then moved over to the next step. So using the Celestial Grey, I just popped a little tiny drop onto the plate and watered my paint down to a glaze type consistency. I also put a little bit of medium mixed in with this, as well as water. For the next step, I just slightly started applying the paint onto the trims. Once that layer had dried, I then went back over with another layer, but not going as far to the edge. For the next stage, I then went with ceramite white. Same as the previous stage, just taken a little drop onto the plate and then watered it down to become a glaze consistency. Once the paint had dried, I then repeated the same process again, slowly building up the highlighted parts of the trim. For the next stage, I then went over with a thicker ceramite white again, just to sharpen up the edges. For this next stage, we're now going to start working upon the gold around the parts of the head and the gun on the Castellan-Achea Battle-Automata. So for the first stage, I'm going to be going with a brown from Scale Colour, and once again just going to water down my paints so it becomes a milky consistency on the palette. For the next stage, I went in with a ink chestnut from Scale Colour SC81, and with this next stage all I was looking to do is just darken up the brown once more, and also to get into the recesses of the actual model itself. For the next stage, I'm going to start coming in now with a lighter brown. Once again, slight little drop onto the plate and then water down my paint so it become more like a glaze. For the next step, I then went in with Cereal Yellow. Once again, same as the same procedure as before, slightly will drop onto the plate and then watered it down as a glaze and then started slowly working up a lighter colour. So once again, come in with a lighter yellow, SE10 from Scale Colour. Just same as process as before, just warming it down to become a glaze on the plate. For the next stage, I came in with white sands from Scale Colour, SC09. For the next stage, I came in with a ceramite white from Citadel range. With this next step, I wanted to come around all the edges of the gold. The next part, I just wanted to go over where I've missed before with the steel from the glazier range, and just gone around the head and the pipes. Once dried, I then proceeded with a pallid witch flesh around the actual head itself. Once the first layer dried, I then proceeded with a ceramite white, once again watered down to a glaze effect, and slowly started building up the highlighting onto the head. This stage, I wanted to go back over the red that I'd originally done. To make the red pop a little bit more, I went back over with the Mephiston red, and all I'd done was to put a couple of drops onto the paint and added some water and then turned it into a glaze. and then just started applying the glaze over the areas that I'd painted before, and also just tidying up anything that I might have tapped over with the white. The next step, I wanted to work upon all the lenses on the model. So I then decided to go over with the Tesla Blue SE52 from Scale Colour again. With this step, I added a little drop onto the plate, but I didn't have this as watery, as I wanted this to be a base coat. For the next stage, once the first blue had dried off, I then went over with sky blue. At this point, I started then turning this into a glaze. So once again, a little bit onto the plate, and then just adding lots of water and medium to the actual paint itself. For the next stage, I came in with another blue from Scale Colour, SE15. This process I had to go over with quite a few glazes to build up the light. In this next stage, I started to add white to the blue to start building up the colour. The next step, I just added a slight little bit more white to the blue, just to lighten it up again. For the next stages, I was going to start putting some scratches into the model. So first of all, started off with this Castellan-Achea grey again as my base colour. Once the grey had dried, I then went to Chaos Black, and with a very thin black line in the middle of the grey that I've just previously painted. For the next stage, I just went in with a ceramite white. For the final stages, I went over with a gloss varnish. Once the varnish was dried, I then put some decals onto the models. Once the decals had dried and I was happy where the positions were, I then went back over with a matte varnish from glaze. Thanks guys for taking the time to watch my video, really appreciate it. If you like what you've seen in the video, please don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe. Thanks for watching.